coming from Arkansas. And Nick used to live here. And when he did, he was a frequent attendee in this room. So we know him well. He facilitates several sanghas where he is, and he is an aspirant of the Order of Interbeing of Thich Nhat Hanh. His hobbies include painting, writing, reading, and exploring the splendor of the outdoors with bicycles and his 2 feet. And so this evening, he is going to talk about meeting the 6 Paramitas. And some questions that he is posing are, do you ever struggle with spiritual practice? Who doesn't? Wonder if you're just not getting it right? Would you like a quick fix to all your problems? That's enticing. So thank you for being here, Nick. Welcome.
Hello, dear Sangha. I'm here today to offer you a quick fix to all of your problems. Just kidding. There are no quick fixes. But today I'm here to talk about the 6 Paramitas. And before I talk about that, I wanted to just ask a question to the group, and Jake's going to help me out here with a Word document that we're going to pull up. And I was just kind of curious, why are we practicing here together? Why do we come together in this room and sit with some of us friends, some of us strangers? Why do we practice sitting like this for 20 minutes in total silence? So I'm going to ask that question to the group. And if anyone would like to share, you don't have to bow in, just kind of throw out your answer. And maybe in 1 or 2 words, why you come here, why you practice mindfulness. And then Jake will put that on a Word document, and it will be on the screen for everybody to see.
It helps me get grounded and centered. So if you want to share a screen with that. Just like grounded and centered.
It's easier to do in a group than it is to do it by myself at home.
Discipline.
Hope.
Connection.
To see the dog.
I like it.
So Brina's put in the chat box, inner peace and harmony, connection, shared energy of mindfulness. Shared energy of mindfulness. Someone else say something? Guidance? Okay, guidance. Billy says, affirm each other. Someone else said, opens my heart.
inspire. Inspirational, inspire.
For questions like these.
Makes me happy.
Okay, I think that's pretty good. Thank you, Jake, for taking down those answers. If you wouldn't mind bringing back to the, I guess me as the main screen, that'd be helpful. Okay, great. So thank you all for sharing reasons why you come here, things that you look for in this practice. And a few of those were actually the paramitas that we'll talk about today. And so some of you may be familiar with the paramitas. Some of you may not have. I know last week, Ji-Yoon gave a talk on the paramitas, on the paramita of energy. And I know in the young adults Sangha, I've been seeing the emails, the Tuesday night Sangha, they've been going through the 6 paramitas as well. And so additionally, in my Sangha in Arkansas, we just finished up a 6-week course. Each one of those weeks had one of the paramitas in it. So there seems to be a lot of paramita talk floating around. It seems like a good time to talk about the 6 paramitas and what these are. So the paramitas are a teaching by the Buddha, and the word paramita means a couple things. It means perfection, virtue, or additionally, something that helps us get to the other shore. And so in our daily lives, the Buddha taught that we want to have practices that can help us to get to the other shore. We may be currently standing on a shore of a lot of difficult emotions. We may be standing on a shore of depression and a lot of suffering. Maybe there's a lot of anger coming up for us or grief that we can't deal with. And so suffering is kind of the doorway into the practice. Many people that I know who practice mindfulness come to for a way to kind of help to deal with difficult situations in life. So the Buddha taught that we're on the shore, we may be on the shore of difficulty, of suffering, of just difficult feelings coming up. And we want to get to a shore of more peace, more connection, more mindfulness, more awareness.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, we need to interrupt you.
Okay.
Our Wi-Fi dropped for about a minute, so we've been over here on radio silence. We couldn't hear you for about a minute.
You couldn't hear me for a minute? Okay. So can you all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was saying that paramita is a word that means to get to the other shore. We may be on a shore where we feel that we have a lot of difficulty and suffering. We want to get to a shore where we're experiencing more peace and more happiness in our daily lives. And so the 6 paramitas the Buddha taught are things that we can do, practical areas that we can make efforts in to help get us to a shore where there's more peace and more awareness, and where we can handle our suffering with more skill. So before I go into those 6 paramitas, I wanted to actually list what the opposite of them are. So we also talk about karma in this path, and maybe the reason why there's suffering in our life is because our actions have not been in alignment with kind of an enlightened perspective. I'm not saying that all suffering that we have is our fault, but it can be helpful to look into maybe ways that we have acted or things we have done that have led us to maybe a less than ideal life in some ways. So the opposite of the 6 paramitas are laziness, selfishness, forgetfulness, living like immorally without a sense of ethics, closed-mindedness, having a closed heart or a closed mind that's not open to the experiences of others, And then also delusion or ignorance, living in a state of ignorance or delusion, not being able to see the truth clearly. So those are the opposites of the 6 paramitas. Now I'm going to go into what the actual paramitas are. And after I talk about these paramitas, we're going to break out into discussion groups, and each of you will have one paramita to discuss. And then we'll come back together and we'll share what we've discussed, which we've learned from our paramitas. So the first paramita is the dana paramita, which is generosity. So generosity is the practice of giving. So the opposite of that was selfishness. So rather than focusing only on ways that we can be happy and only on things that I can do, things that I can accumulate for myself to be happy, I can focus more and more on how can I give to others to create happiness and joy. So that could involve giving physical items to people. So maybe in our community, we're aware that there's people that are in need of food. There's people that are hungry. I know in Dallas, there's many people that are homeless, that don't have a place to eat and sleep, that lack the basic resources. It's like that in Arkansas too, as well. I think it's like that in many different communities, especially in major cities and metroplexes. There's people that lack the basic necessities for living. So our generosity can be giving to people who are in need, giving with assistance, offering some relief, helping people with their burdens and suffering. So we can give in an external way to someone who's in need, those physical material resources, whether it be money, if we're fortunate enough to have that, or some extra soup or food, or clothing. It's going to get cold, so giving maybe an extra hoodie to someone who's in need. That's one way that we can practice generosity. Thich Nhat Hanh also talks about our state of mind can be a state of generosity. So as we continue to practice mindfulness, we can develop a sense of peace. We can develop freshness. We can develop spaciousness. And we can develop that calm centeredness. These can also be gifts that we give to people as well. So through our generosity, we can give someone our presence, which is probably one of the best gifts we can give someone. We can give our peace to others, which is a great gift. We can also give the gift of non-fear, the gift of looking without fear into a situation, of listening deeply to another person. So those are free gifts that we can give to people in our daily lives. And when we see it that way, we can see that there's many opportunities for generosity. Another aspect of generosity is that we can't give what we don't have. Cornell says that, I've heard him say that many times. If we're not feeling peaceful and centered in ourselves, we can't give that to others. If we don't have much money in the bank, we can't give money to people who might be in need or donate to the Dallas Meditation Center, for example. So it's important to cultivate those things for ourselves before we can give those to others. The second paramita is the Sila paramita, which stands for ethical living. So living with a degree of ethics, following a set of rules that help to guide our energy. If we have rules that are wise, we can direct our energy into channels that uplift us and that help us rather than leave us drained. The Buddha taught a very simple form of ethics, 5 basic kind of do not do these things in order to help us to develop our mind and our mental capacities. Those 5 sets of ethics are don't steal, so don't take things that belong to others. Don't lie, so don't use your speech to distort reality. When you talk, try to tell the truth. even though it might not be convenient or it might not be comfortable. Refrain from sexual misconduct. So trying to see the fullness of other people and not using them for our own pleasure. Refraining from taking in toxins. So in the Buddha talks about not drinking alcohol, but that could refer to taking in toxins from websites or conversations or TV shows, things that kind of pollute our consciousness. So we have don't lie, don't steal, don't drink toxins, don't, so don't lie, don't steal, don't drink toxins, don't refrain from sexual misconduct. And then there's also, I'm missing the last one.
Kill.
Did someone say something?
Don't kill.
Don't kill.
Don't kill, that's right. Yeah, thank you. That's why the song is there to help me out. So don't kill, refrain from killing. And on the Buddha's path, a lot of the time that kind of starts with not eating meat in many ways. So refraining from seeing into the industries that lead to a lot of killing and suffering for living beings and refraining from that. But we can't be perfect at not killing. Whenever we boil water, we're killing off a lot of bacteria. Whenever we walk on the sidewalk, we're killing worms and bugs that are crawling on the sidewalk. But we can be more mindful and be more aware and honest with ourselves and see where we're, how we can reduce the amount of killing that we're doing. The third paramita is Ksanti paramita, which stands for patience. Thich Nhat Hanh translates that as inclusiveness. And so he talks about the Buddha's teaching that if we have a small heart, a heart that's maybe the size of a glass of water. So if I take this glass of water and I drop some salt into it, and then I drink this glass of water, I'll be able to taste that salt that's in this water because there's not very much water in there. Similarly, if our heart is very small and there's a bit of suffering or irritation that gets dropped into it, it'll change the flavor of our whole day. So that little bit of anger or frustration or irritation or suffering can really change our whole experience if our heart is small. But if our heart is wide and open and inclusive, and we've cultivated a wide open heart, that can be like dropping that little bit of salt into a pond or into an ocean. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference of that addition of that suffering. So similarly, if we have patience, if we have inclusiveness, if we have a wide heart, we can manage our suffering with a lot more skill, and that can create more peace in our lives. Additionally, when we think of inclusiveness, can we face people that we disagree with compassion? Can we face our enemies with compassion? Can we face people that may vote differently than we do with compassion and understanding? Can we accept and include all beings into our circle of love and compassion? That takes a lot of work and diligence, which leads us to the next paramita. So far we have generosity, ethics, and patience or inclusiveness. The next paramita is the one that Ji-yoon talked about last time, Virya paramita, which stands for effort or diligence. So if we want to cultivate these good seeds in our life, similar to a garden, you can't plant a garden, you can't plant a flower and only water it once. If you do that, unless it's a wildflower, it won't grow, it won't be benefited. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, we lost you for a minute. We lost you for a good 35 seconds, so we could.
5 seconds, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me know. So So we have effort, diligence, the importance of returning to the practice. If you want to make progress in meditation, in cultivating those positive states of mind, it's important that you return to the practice. You can't practice just once and then leave it and expect to have the positive results. One piece of advice I give to people wanting to practice is to have a daily practice, a daily routine where you practice every day. It could be for, if you're starting out, it could be just for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be for a super long amount of time. But diligence involves being disciplined and coming back to the practice again and again, and continuing to put effort and energy into the practice. The fifth paramita is concentration, which is similar to the last one, the practice of meditation. So meditation and mindfulness, we practice stopping, we practice resting, we practice healing. And if you're new to the practice, you may find it difficult to concentrate. When we say focus on our breath, you may only be able to do that for a couple seconds before your mind goes elsewhere. But as you continue to practice with diligence, the goal is that you'll be able to focus for longer and longer periods of time. So we have generosity, ethics, patience, effort, concentration. And the last one is the prajna paramita, which stands for wisdom. Thich Nhat Hanh says that wisdom is the mother of all of the rest of the paramitas. So some wise views in the Buddhist practice include the view of interbeing, which means that there is no separation. When I think of myself, I realize that I am made up of a lot of different parts. I wouldn't be here without my parents. I wouldn't be here without my grandparents. I wouldn't be here without the food that I've been eating this week. I wouldn't be here without the air that I breathe. And so when you think about interbeing, it's to realize that we are interconnected with all of the rest of life. So rather than thinking that I myself am here separately from others and I exist as a separate entity, it's really the case that I am interconnected with all of the rest of life. We all come from somewhere and we all go to somewhere as well. We don't just arrive out of nowhere. And so that's one of the wise views in the Buddhist path, is interbeing, the interconnectedness of life. A second important view is impermanence. So knowing that things arise and they pass, which is helpful if we're on that shore where there's a lot of suffering and anxiety and depression, difficult emotions. If we can sit with it, if we can practice with it, if we can face it, we can see that no emotion lasts forever. No feeling is final. No state or circumstance lasts forever, and it passes and changes and transforms into something else. And this can be part of the doorway to liberation. So next we're going to do a little activity. So we have the 6 paramitas. I'll say them one more time. We have generosity, ethics, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. So these are the 6 things we can practice that can lead us to more peace and more stability and more mindfulness and more connectedness and open-heartedness in our lives. So what we're going to do next is break into groups. So I'm really putting Jake to the test here today. I'm going to see if he can make a breakout group on Zoom for the people on Zoom. But for the rest of you all, I'll have you divide, before we do that, I'll have you all divide into 5 groups within the room. So maybe like Jake and Michael and Bobby can form one group together, the talkers. And then the four people, I guess the rest of the people in the room can form 4 groups. So if you all could take a moment to break into 4 groups, all of you sitting in the main hall, that would be helpful. And then the facilitators will form their own group, then we'll do one other group on Zoom.
Yeah,
So if you
just-
all could break in.
For your
Is there a
form.
question? So once you've formed your groups, I'll let you all know which paramita you have, and you can discuss that for about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll come back together and share what we've discussed.
I never get.
Paul's gonna help you figure out how to do this Zoom stuff, because I'm still learning.
Okay,
Hey,
so I
Nick,
can't,
you are actually the host of this Zoom meeting now since our internet cut out. So you can pause the recording, please, so that you're not recording the breakout session. And then you can start the breakout room and manually assign yourself and the other people on Zoom to it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
yeah, cool, I know how to do that, so.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so,
actually, while you're at it, can you make Jake the co-host again?
yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, are we supposed to know which paramita we're discussing, or we just pick one?
I'm going to, I'll let you know, basically. So let's see. So let's say, I can't really see the room, so it's kind of a mess, but so the first group, let's do like furthest to the left, on the left side. Just raise your hand if you're going to be the first group. Okay. Okay, or Michael can point to the first group.
Okay,
So maybe we should make one of the other camps.
So that first group, you're going to do generosity, okay? Who will be the second group?
two,
Okay. The second group is going to be diligence or energy or perseverance. Okay, the third group
right here,
is going to be meditation and mindfulness.
4,
The fourth group is going to be precepts or ethical living.
I'm in group 5.
And the fifth group, the facilitators, will do inclusiveness. And then here on Zoom, we'll do wisdom. And so just spend some time discussing, talk about how you can incorporate this into your life, talk about what it meant to you, maybe just whatever came up for you when I was sharing for this paramita. And then when we're finished, we'll have one person share a meaningful tidbit for the rest of the group. So kind of select a spokesperson that will come in and share the meaningful tidbit for the rest of the group. Okay, everyone got
How
that?
much time?
You what?
How much time do we have?
We have, let's do 7 minutes, so I'll let you all know when we're finished. Okay, so go ahead and start discussing the paramita that you have. And let's have someone share what they talked about. Let's start with the generosity paramita. Would you mind sharing with the group something that stood out to you that you discussed?
Yeah, hi, this is Neil. Can you hear me? Hey,
Yes.
Neil. Trying to think, just being generous, we talked about how it's, how listening to others with kindness is a generous act. We talked about, being generous to ourselves and doing whatever kindness, helping others when we can. And how a lot of times we're not, we're selfish and we don't, you know, we aren't generous and, but it was good. I like the examples you gave us, Nick. Yeah, what really struck me is being kind to ourselves is a generous act. You know, a couple of us went to this, we had the Cottonwood Art Festival today, and just enjoying the art. That was a generous act. And when we're generous to ourselves, we could be more generous to others. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. So let's do diligence next. Diligence.
Okay, I'll talk about it. We started by saying, diligence related to discipline, that you, have a good habit and keep on doing the things that's important to do. And then, we also talk about, everyone is in a different path, and we also need to have flexibility built into it, to have discipline and to have some flexibility of doing the right thing. To the end, we also brought in wisdom. So how do you know when to be more structured, keep on doing the right thing, and how to build the flexibility that we need to have wisdom as you practice mindfulness, as you practice every day, then you deepen your understanding and wisdom, and you will eventually do the right thing and effortlessly. But we are a long way towards that goal, but we're willing to work on it.
Thank you, Jen. Let's do meditation next.
Okay, Lisa here. So we talked about what mindfulness and meditation does for us and some different things, getting us unwrapped from our thoughts and being able to get present and just notice what's around us. We talked about that dogs are good at mindfulness. We also talked about that there are many different ways to be mindful and to meditate. And so that, I think that looked a little different for everybody in our group. And they're all mindfulness and meditation.
Thank you for sharing. Let's hear from the ethics or precepts group.
Hi, I'm Karen. So yeah, we discussed ethics and how it can be such a complicated part of our human experience. All three of us have had, struggles with ethics and also our own opinions on what ethics are for ourselves and for others. So in regards to, things like, well, we all agreed as far as do not kill, of course. We all agreed that none of us would ever do that. We all saw that as unethical. But then there was a bit of a quandary when it came to eating meat. Like maybe there's been times where we could, where we didn't have options to not eat meat. And then, as far as not lying and not stealing, we agreed that, those are not, well, that it's unethical to lie, it's unethical to steal. But we also thought of different personal experiences where there may have not been an option not to lie, or, as far as not stealing, like there are hungry people in the world who their life depends on stealing. And we try to look at it from a non-judgmental perspective and understanding the moral quandary and the intricateness of ethics.
Thank you. Let's do inclusiveness or patience.
So several things came up. One was the idea of non-discrimination, non-discrimination of views, being open-minded and tolerant of other people's views. An example was given of someone who was just starting a new job and was having a bit of a challenge feeling included. Another example was someone coming here for the first time and walking in the door with a bunch of strangers, and us making that person feel included. And so one of the ideas was that both sides have a responsibility, and the person who wants to be included needs to understand what they need to feel that way. And if that's not being provided, then the obligation is to speak up and say what they need. On the other side, if you're a person or a group that where someone perhaps doesn't feel included or is new, it's that person or group's responsibility to take action and to affirmatively do something to make that person feel included. And so it's about, on both sides, feeling the feeling of actions that create the feeling that inclusiveness is occurring and that both sides are getting what they need. Anything else?
Thank you for sharing. So we did wisdom, which primarily focused on impermanence and kind of how to use impermanence or remind ourselves of impermanence when we're in situations where people or animals we care about are suffering. And also when maybe our lives don't seem to meet with the expectations we may have had, understanding that life keeps moving and we need to just be aware of how our expectations may or may not match up to what we thought life was going to be at certain times. So thank you all for sharing. Those paramitas are important practices to cultivate those qualities of peace and compassion and loving kindness in our lives. And I hope that through this process of reflection and discussion and the teachings, you've gained a little bit more familiarity with what the paramitas mean and stand for. So thank you all for listening and participating.